and she can't make it 15 feet to her car. Give me a break. Give me a break.
So is the average Bernie Sanders supporter nothing more than a basement dweller living in their parents' basement, as Hillary Clinton described them? It's funny because all the Hillary supporters on the internet are desperately trying to rationalize that Hillary's basement dweller comment, it wasn't an insult, it's not something to take personally, it's not something to take offense to, when there's no way to rationalize her comment. Because people say she was sympathizing with them. You don't sympathize with a group of people by using a common, universally known stereotype living in your parents' basement to describe them. Okay? Clearly, when she thought of Bernie Sanders supporters in that leaked audio, the first thing that came to her mind was a derogatory, insulting stereotype. So there's no way around it. Living in your parents' basement is universally used as a way to kind of denigrate. In fact, later in the leaked audio, she says that the Bernie supporters are idealistic. She's basically saying they're naive, and that you have to work hard as a form of civic responsibility. Work hard, living in their parents' basement. Idealistic. She's basically calling them lazy, naive losers who live in their parents' basements. But that's sort of not what I came here to talk about this fine Sunday morning. As this cat, it's not my cat, but it's my brother's cat. I like to take him out for walks because he loves the freedom. The freedom to hunt and kill lizards. I suppose as a vegan myself, mostly vegan, I'm violating veganism by enabling this little fucker's hunting murderous adventures. But of course, that's not what I came here to talk about today. What I really wanted to talk about was, well, is the average Bernie Sanders supporter just a basement-dwelling, naive, idealistic loser who's angry that he's $80,000 in debt, sitting in a college, yet he still doesn't have a decent job, as he was promised? Well, I think there's no doubt that that is the case for a lot of Bernie supporters. I remember I was at a grocery store once, and I walked into the line, and you know there's a bunch of like newspapers and tabloids and shit. One of them had a big face of Trump, and there was this young dude, looked like he was probably early 20s. He was looking at it, and I think I said something like, yeah, Trump, I don't know if I said something positive about Trump, or if I just remained neutral to feel out what his position was. But eventually he came out and said, yeah, I'm a Bernie Sanders fan. And the impression I got off the guy after talking to him for a couple minutes was that he was like a desperate, I think I tweeted this out back then, like 5-6 months ago, that he came off to me as some kind of desperate young dude who desperately needed a job, didn't know why the economy wasn't working out in his favor. Thus, he was sort of desperately looking for a way out. And I think that's a fair description of the average Bernie Sanders supporter. Young, naive, desperate, doesn't understand why, hey, I went to college, I'm getting a degree. I was told that if I go to college and get a degree, I'm gonna make money, get a good job, and everything gonna be good. And they're sitting there in their college, $80,000 in debt. They turn on the news, they see all this college debt crisis, student loan crisis, and they're trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. The truth is, I would say that a good number of people who are in college today aren't really good for anything more than working at Burger King or being a bag boy at the grocery store. And I'm not trying to condemn you. I used to work at a grocery store. I used to be a bag boy. I actually was really good at the job. I actually kind of liked the job. There's nothing wrong with those jobs. But the problem here is when you are spoon-fed lies to think that you should do more in life than you actually can or even want to. And I think that's what college does. It sells false hope. It sells this idea that if you want to be great and successful and all this great shit, you just have to sit in a classroom, you're going to be handed a degree, and you're going to magically somehow, when you graduate, you're going to be like this great executive somewhere. And it doesn't work like that. And more often than not, if you're in college, it's because you lack ambition. And there's nothing wrong with lacking ambition. Everybody is at their own place in life, and you have to go with what feels right to you. But when you're sold this false hope that all you have to do is sit in a classroom and you're going to become some great fucking successful person, well, that's a lie. And that's why so many kids who are in college shouldn't be there, but they're buried in student loan debt and they're trying to figure out what's happening. So that's sort of the ironic paradox of what's going on in college today. Instead of these young college kids having basic jobs, even if they're minimum wage jobs, where they're at least working and putting energy into the economic engine so that they can get energy back in the form of compensation, money, a lot of these kids are just sitting in a classroom because they were spoon-fed a lie by the mainstream college industry that if you just go to college, everything is going to work out. And a lot of times that's just not the case. That's just not what ends up happening. So, yeah, I think that a lot of these college kids would benefit greatly if instead of sitting in a classroom all day, they were actually maybe not the best job, whatever the fuck the best job even means, but at least they're working a job that is right for them at their level of ambition and their level of commitment and their level of skill. And I say this with as little condescension as possible. I'm not trying to sound elitist and say, yeah, you're not good enough for this job or that job. I wanted to work at a grocery store just last year. You know, last year when I was poor, I moved into an efficiency. I was completely fucking broke. And I had to work for Lyft. You know, that basically is Uber, making $4 an hour some nights. Hang on. It reminds me of this guy, the creator of that show, Dirty Jobs. I think his name is Rob Lowe, Dirty Jobs. I don't think that's his name. Mike Rowe, some shit like that. One of the reasons that he created the show Dirty Jobs was to help glorify and bring a sense of value to a lot of these basic manual jobs that are essential to any functioning economy, but are sort of belittled by the intellectual establishment, which, by the way, fucking retreats and hides in universities, who belittle these jobs as being lesser or not as good. You should have a clean job in an air-conditioned office. That's not for everybody, and I think that that's what a lot of people are fed, to the point where it's this mindless mantra: everybody must go to college, everybody must get a degree, and you can't be happy or successful if you don't go there. Again, if you're interested, I did write the book, Success Without School, Think Outside the Classroom, put my heart and soul into it. It's available in ebook and audiobook format. I'll put a link to that in the description below. Something I'm very passionate about, and I think you guys would enjoy it. If you're interested, first chapter is completely free. You can listen to it right now, the link below. First chapter free, give you an idea what it's about. I think you guys will enjoy it, but there's a little quick plug because I'm, making money in the marketplace here. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a fair assessment to say that the average Bernie supporter is a basement dweller who is naive and angry that they're, to use Hillary's words, they're baristas working at Starbucks or whatever, and they don't know why they're not making a lot of money. They don't know why they're covered in student loan debt. Well, maybe it's because you went to college when you didn't fucking have to. Maybe you should just be a barista at Starbucks. It's not the best money in the world, but it's called minimalism. I'm a minimalist. I don't like to buy and consume a lot of bullshit that I don't need. It's not that expensive to live and survive. I was working as a Lyft driver, practically broke, but I had food on the table. I had a shelter over my head. I was happy. You don't need that much physical shit to be happy. Find happiness in health. Find happiness in going to the park and exercising. Find happiness in eating good food. Find happiness in meditating. Find happiness in the simpler things, which ultimately are the only things that bring us happiness in the first place. Not buying a big fucking television, a big plush sofa, living in an oversized fucking house where it takes 10 minutes to walk from one side of this fucking thing to the other. You don't use half the fucking rooms. Alright? Maybe not everybody is supposed to live this high, big consumerist lifestyle where we have to go to college to become educated in order to make enough money to afford this lifestyle. But then you end up just going into a false hope system where you try to be something that you're not. And you end up getting 80 grand in debt. So you can wave a degree around and say you're smarter than everybody else, even though you're just $80,000 in debt. Yeah, you're so smart. Again, I'll put the link to my book below. Thanks for watching.
And she can't make it 15 feet to her car. Give me a break. Give me a break.